Elite live streams. We back again. What's good, everybody? Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing? Salute to all of the new subscribers, everyone who's coming through. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the commentary. You guys are giving great responses in the comments. We just dropped a few videos from this weekend. We dropped some live streams, of course. We were going live with all the homies, so keep an eye out for those videos. As well, I got a few videos that just dropped as well. It's on my channel personally, so make sure you guys keep staying tapped in. We really appreciate the love and the support. So today, we've been staying on this topic. The Epstein files just get crazier and crazier every single day, man. There's a distraction from Donald Trump to try to, keep away the eyes from this real, actual story, the Epstein files. We're still calling for the Epstein files, all right? Since we knew they were out there, 2020, we've been waiting for them, and we back. So, I had to come back with this one, man. It's a big development right here. So, I had to keep my foot on the neck of this story. This is a story that I've been covering on this channel since I've been basically making content, all right? So, I'm really excited to get into this one again and continue to speak on what's been going on with old Donnie out there, man, because there's been some, a very weird behavior that's been going on with kind of Donald Trump, him trying to use a lot of distraction tactics, propaganda to throw people off, to not keep people talking about this story as it's been growing, right underneath our eyes. We had a whole government shutdown, which was a huge, blow, not only to us, but to the economy. But then as well, it was a big distraction tactic as well. All right. So we're back. I don't know what was going on, but Google is playing with the stream, guys, but that's all right. We're here. We're back. We're not going to let that stop us. All right. So like I was saying, Epstein had an email chain that he was speaking to his, Jezebel Maxwell is what I call her. He was speaking to her, and apparently they were in corresponding, and Trump was mentioned about him spending time with said person. And so I'm not sure exactly what, the premise was of why they were going about this or what the plan was. But now we're kind of starting to see the seedings of all this coming in a very, very fast pace. You know what I'm saying? And it's very interesting to kind of see just how different things have become, man. And I'm just kind of looking at, the scenario. And it's been a weird scenario, man. Like, I guess, like, from a standpoint where you would think that Donald Trump, you have, everything going on already, right? You're trying to control the market. You're trying to control the government. And then in the back end, you got your boy, all right, Jeffrey Epstein, who's still lurking. It's still lurking. There's still a lot of people who are very, very curious about what happened and why they were connected. And so I feel like now that we're kind of in this spot where we can really sit back, we can look, and we can take our time to assess everything, right? Not only just what he's been doing with the economy, but what's been going on behind the scenes, right? And now that we're in the time of truth where everything is just getting exposed, it's been insane to kind of watch this over time, man. And I'm just, like I said, I've been following this story since the beginning, and I'm going to keep following this story because it's a great story. And it's something that needs to be talked about, because there is no way that if this was Donald Trump and it was Donald Trump in the position of Barack Obama and Barack Obama was in the position of Donald Trump and these type of emails came out, that no one would be saying anything about this, okay? So let's pull this up for you guys first. Let's get into it, right? Let's start talking about it, man, because I don't know what Google was trying to do, man, at the beginning of the stream, dog, but they literally kicked me off the stream when I was talking about this, guys. So you can't tell me, man, that there ain't some forces out there trying to, suppress the truth, but we ain't gonna stop, man. We gonna keep it going because I ain't got time for the BS. All right, we gonna keep it going. So look, here we go. We're gonna bring it up right here. All right, we'll read it together. Okay, so it says Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted S offender whose death by unaliving has spawned intense scrutiny over the high-profile people he knew, mentioned Donald Trump by name multiple times in private correspondence that began about 15 years ago, with an associate and an author in Trump's orbit, according to newly released emails from the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. All right, so like I mentioned, it was in the government's incentive, specifically the Democrats, to expose this. Okay, so now we're watching, right? We're seeing how it's very, very easy for them to hold this information, and then when it's necessary, they can release it. All right, so you cannot tell me that those files are not out there. All right, if they're just holding this information and they said, okay, cool, we'll wait, we'll keep this together, and we'll wait until we see, right? We'll see if you go for the government shutdown, and then if you participate in said government shutdown, we are going to release the files and or emails that they have, apparently, right? So let's continue. The emails to longtime Epstein associate Jezebel Maxwell, who was convicted of S trafficking after Epstein's death, and the author of Michael Wolff, included conversations in which Epstein asserts Trump spent significant time with a woman whom oversight Democrats describe as a victim of Epstein's S trafficking ring, guys. Okay, so what they're saying is within this email corresponding, right, from Epstein to Jezebel Maxwell, right, they're saying that they describe Trump spending a night, okay, spending a night with someone who was a, I guess confirmed victim, right, of Epstein's S trafficking ring. All right. So the emails also include a message in which Epstein asserts Trump knew about the girls, seemingly in reference to Trump's claim that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago Club for poaching young women who worked there, according to the newly released emails. All right. So these emails include, right, that Trump knew about the girls. All right. So what you got to say, man? I mean, it's right here, right? In the emails, included message says that Trump knew about the girls, guys. Okay. So let's continue, right? The emails were released on Wednesday morning by the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, which obtained them after subpoenaing Epstein's estate earlier this year, hours before the GOP-led panel released thousands more documents from the estate. Okay, so there's more documents out there, guys. All right. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll do another live stream where I can do a little bit more research and kind of dig into all of those other released documents that they're saying was from the estate. We're gonna get into that, right? So they say hours before the GOP-led panel released thousands more to the estate, Trump did not receive or send any of the messages, which largely predated his time as president, and he has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing in connection with Epstein or Maxwell. I mean, of course, we already knew that, right? We knew that, he would not really have action to this, right? So they say Trump and the White House on Wednesday cast the issue as a hoax, which press secretary Caroline Leavitt saying the emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that Trump did nothing wrong. Well, like we mentioned earlier, apparently that's wrong and that's a lie, because what they're saying is inside the emails, they implicated that Trump was very aware of the underage girls who were a part of Epstein and Jezebel Maxwell's S trafficking ring. All right. So that's where we're at, guys. We're not messing around here, okay? We're not gonna play these games with them playing in our face when it's right in the writing. And that's why I specifically sometimes like to cite the literature over just the video, because the literature is going to have more of the facts. It's going to be a journalist attached to this, someone who has to write this, as opposed to just a video where people are just going to give you, you know, the half truths and their own synopsis. All right, I'm giving you straight up from the journalist. Let's credit the journalist, Miss Caitlin Collins. All right, so in one email dated April 2nd, 2011, which CNN has independently reviewed, Epstein emailed Maxwell, I want you to realize that the dog hasn't barked, that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. He spent hours at my house with him, blank, right? So they redacted the victim's name, right? So the victim's name, spent hours with him at Epstein's house. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there, right? I have been thinking about that, said Maxwell. Okay, so they're mentioning to each other that Trump has, you know, basically kept his word. He's not been the dog that's barked, apparently, from what he's saying, right? So if you think about it in that capacity, then it's like, okay, so then what do they mean he hasn't barked? I think, right, what they're speaking about is just the fact that there's a lot of dirt. Everyone knew that when you were kind of in that space with Epstein, that Epstein had dirt on all of these very, very important people, right? And so if Epstein has all this very important data and information, some videos and very, like, you know, damaging information, why wouldn't you think that he would be saying, hey, Trump hasn't barked, meaning that, hey, you know, he's one of them that maybe he would be loyal. Maybe that's what they're saying, but we don't know. But at the end of the day, there is some connection there for him to say that he would be a dog that barks, all right? Meaning that he may have something to say, all right? So let's continue. GOP members of the House Oversight Committee identified the person as Virginia Groff, one of Epstein's most prominent survivors, who passed away by unaliving herself in April, and accused Democrats of hiding her name because she had not alleged Trump had done anything wrong, which is, you know, how these things go, right? And who's to say that, you know, maybe she wasn't paid off, or maybe something, you know, was threatened upon her life. There's a lot of that goes on. You know what I'm saying? We can all be pretty much kind of in that space where we're looking at these, you know, people who are victims or people who were attached to said, you know, Epstein Island, who have had their lives threatened, who have had their lives turned upside down, who have to go into hiding because they were scared that something would happen to them. All right. In her book, she writes that her father, who was a maintenance worker at Mar-a-Lago in 2000, got her a job as a locker room attendant. She wrote, Trump couldn't have been friendlier, telling me it was fantastic that I was there. Do you like kids? Do you like to babysit at all? He explained that he owned several houses next to the resort and that he went to friends, and many of whom had children who needed tending. Okay. She does not accuse Trump of wrongdoing in the book Nobody's Girl. And like I said, we talked about that book when we were talking about Prince Andrew and his implications as well to the Epstein and also the Donald Trump side of things, right? So we're paying attention to that as well, right? We got that going. Okay, so great. So now we continue where it says about 3 years ago, or 3 years before the email in June 2008, Epstein had been sentenced to 18 months in a minimum security prison after pleading guilty to state charges of solicitation of a pro and solicitation of a pro with a underaged person under the age of 18. He was released from prison in July 2009, all right? Not even a year later, okay? Year and some change, having served 13 months Years later, his plea deal would face media scrutiny, including the Miami Herald, for widespread criticism as being too lenient. Of course, when you have an epic level of connections, there's no way that you would think that a guy like Epstein would serve any time. You know what I'm saying? He's just not that guy. Like he doesn't have to. He's got enough connections to where he can get off very easily, and that's exactly what happened. Imagine getting federally convicted, right, for the solicitation of an underage pro and only getting 13 months. Okay, insane. Maxwell told Deputy Attorney General Tom Blanche in an interview earlier this year that she never witnessed the president in any inappropriate settings in any way. Of course, and I talked about this. I told you guys that she was in a minimum security prison, and the fact that she had made it clear that she would turn on anyone if something happened to her, like what happened to Epstein. So I think, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I think they greased that squeaky wheel. They went ahead and they said, hey, let's go ahead and make sure that Maxwell is taken care of, because we know that she will turn on us and release all the information against us, right? So that's what they're thinking. They go ahead and put her in the situation that she's in. She doesn't have to worry too much. And then on top of that, she's also given a lot of freedoms from what we've been told. All right. Like I said, I mentioned this in my last 3 videos that we talked about Epstein and Jezebel Maxwell and her being in a minimum security federal prison right now, and the fact that Donald Trump has kept her there plush and taken care of because he knows that she could blow all this up. Okay. So Trump's relationship with Epstein has been under scrutiny amid a political firestorm in Washington over whether and when the federal government will release its files on the late trafficker who died in prison in 2019. We talked about that, right? The unexpected unaliving of himself, right? Who knew? All right. So the controversy heated up earlier this year when Trump's own Justice Department declared that it stood by its previous conclusion that Epstein died by unaliving himself, and that it did not plan to provide any more information on the case, right? Case closed. Nothing to see here, guys. All right? Nothing to see here. All right? That sparked an outcry in Congress and among some members of Trump's own MAGA base, and it breathed life into efforts to pry loose new information. The House Oversight Committee successfully sought materials from the estate, and that there is a separate effort underway in Congress to force a vote to compellingly release more of the files to the U.S. government. All right. So that's what they're looking to do. They want to continue to release more files. And like I said, they have more. When they told everyone that, hey, I don't know what you guys are talking about, there is no files, and then there was files, and then there ain't, and then there is again, guys, they've had them the whole time. And we've sat back and allowed ourselves to be distracted, to be taken in different directions, and purposely, Donald Trump has literally ran this country into the ground to make sure that you guys are keeping your eyes on other things other than what is really going on, which is the fact that not only him, but many billionaires, politicians, celebrities are a part of this ring of Jeffrey Epstein Island, of people who have done very despicable things to children and to young ladies. It's insane what, the implications have become from, kind of the things that we've been hearing over these last couple of years, you know what I'm saying? And slowly but surely it just keeps coming out. Oh yeah, this or that. You know what I mean? We don't have the files. We do have the files. All right. That sparked an outcry in Congress and among some members of Trump's own MAGA base, and it breathed life into efforts to pry loose new information. The House Oversight Committee successfully sought materials from the state, and there is a separate effort underway in Congress to force a vote on compelling the release of more files from the U.S. government. That effort received a criminal 218th supporter when Rep. Adelita Jalval signed the discharge petition after being sworn in on Wednesday. All right. Levitt on Wednesday criticized Democrats on the House Oversight Committee for releasing the messages, claiming the members selectively leaked emails to the liberal media to create a fake narrative to smear Donald Trump. All right. Mind you, we've already known that these files have existed. We've already known that Donald Trump was implicated. We've already known, all right, for a very long time who Jeffrey Epstein was and his relationship with Donald Trump, right? Boom. All right, cool. We know that. Now, the fact that all this is more so coming out, right? Because like I said, we are in an era of truth right now, right? Where everything that was lies and everything that was fake is all now being revealed. And so if you are not aligned in that energy, you will be exposed. And that's what's happening right now. Donald Trump and everything that he stands for, including his relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, his relationships with the royal family, and everyone else, are now starting to crumble because of what they did. Universal law, we talked about that in our last live stream. It's dropped over here, so make sure you guys check that out. But you always got to pay the piper at some point in life. And I think what we see right now is Donald Trump's chickens coming home to roost. All right. These stories are nothing more than bad faith efforts to distract the president's historic accomplishments, and any American with common sense sees right through this hoax. All right. Trump echoed those criticisms in a series of Truth Social's posts Wednesday, and accusing the Democrats of trying to bring up Jeffrey Epstein hoax again, but they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. Only a very bad or stupid Republican will fall into that trap, he added. Well, I think it's important for all of us to keep our eyes on the prize, because honestly, there's where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a lot going on right now with pointing the finger between the Democrats and the Republicans, and while they both point the finger at each other, nothing gets done. And that's where we're at, guys. Like I'm tired of playing the game for them. I'm tired of allowing that game to get played while nothing gets done. You guys can fight amongst each other, but if some shit get done, I don't care. But if we're fighting and nothing gets done, then we have to address what the is going on, right? It can't just be we're just gonna fight all the time and then nothing gets solved. We never take any account for what we're doing or how we're doing it. We're just over here saying whatever, doing whatever, and not really allowing time, right, to actually pass where people can actually contribute and be able to actually say something about what Americans are supposed to be doing and where America is in 2025 in comparison to where it used to be, like y'all say, right? Make America great, all that other stuff. Okay, well, let's get to it, because it's been a very long time since America has been great, okay? So that's where we're at, okay? According to the email reviewed by CNN, Epstein wrote to Wolf apparently to address Trump's claim that he asked Epstein to resign his membership at the president's Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he asked me to resign, Epstein wrote. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls, as he asked just then to stop, okay? So he's already saying that, hey, man, he can kick me out, but Trump knew what was up. Trump knew what was going on. And I believe that. I believe that. Why would Epstein have to lie, fam? When he had all the leverage at this point. This is before, anything had really happened to him. So when he's saying these things, he still has leverage. He still has all of his resources at this point. So the incentive would be for him to protect himself. But what he's saying is like, dude, like, why would I lie? Like, Trump knew there was girls there. Come on, man. The White House has said Trump barred Epstein from the Mar-a-Lago Club for being a creep, and Trump himself has said Epstein stole young women from Mar-a-Lago Spa while explaining why their relationship ended. In an interview with Blanche, Maxwell denied recruiting Mar-a-Lago. All right. So let's see. In a third email released by the Oversight Committee and viewed by CNN Wednesday, Wolf, who published a book, Trump's West Wing, in 2018, wrote Epstein with the subject line, "Heads Up," in December 15, 2015. That was the day of a CNN Republican primary debate where there is no mention of Epstein in the transcript. I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in the scrum afterwards. Epstein, according to the email, responded, "If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" Wow, this is crazy, man. This is where we at, bro. This is high level corruption. This is high level you know, cover up conspiracy stuff right here, guys. Like, they are really deep in it right here. And Wolf says, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in any way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. And if it really looks like he could win, you could save him and generating a debt." Of course, it's possible that when he asked if he'll say Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in Trump regime. So look at this, guys. These guys literally are talking about how they would use the evidence to leverage that against Trump if he ever got out of line. Why would he say that if this is not true? If there was not something that they could bring to the table that would expose Trump? That's because there is, right? They are literally alluding to that right there in this paragraph, okay? So when people are talking about that there's no Epstein files that don't exist, that there isn't, what we thought that there was, this is literally confirming this. Epstein wrote in an email, okay? This was no one else. This was his already private emails, okay? He let them know that, hey, what should I do with this information? And Wolf responded, hey, you can hang him with this information if ever necessary. If he ever needs it for your own gain and your own personal attacks, then use it. But if you don't have to, then don't. That's literally what they're saying right here, guys. So when I'm looking at that perspective and I'm thinking to myself, like, there would be no reason for him to lie when they're talking about this is valuable PR and political currency. That's the game. The game is how much dirt do you have on the next person to leverage that into political currency to use and leverage whichever way that you would like to. So when I'm looking at this, you guys have to understand, man, this is, like I said, this is some high level corruption, conspiracy type stuff right here, man. Wolf has indicated publicly that he has interviewed Epstein, and the Daily Beast has reported it obtained recordings in which Epstein spoke at length to the author about Trump and claimed the two were close friends. Trump's camp has called the recordings false smears. All right, these were just real recordings, man. This you can't run away from the facts, guys. All right. Following the House Oversight Committee's Democrats' release of the email with Wolf and Maxwell, the GOP-led panel released an additional 20,000 pages, and it had received from the Epstein estate, including messages where, Epstein criticized his one-time friend Trump, his one-time friend after Trump took office. Donald Trump is effing crazy, said Epstein. Okay. So look, this is where they're at. They're already saying, hey man, like we can easily be able to go out of our way and say what we want, right? He says Donald Trump is effing crazy, Epstein wrote in one January 2017 email to the New York Times, 1 week after Trump's inauguration. In another December 2018 email exchange with the former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, he called the president borderline insane. In that same month, he emailed former Obama White House counsel Catherine Romuller about Trump's behavior. You might want to tell your dim friends that treating Trump like a mafia don ignores the fact that he has a great, dangerous power. Says tighten the noose too slowly, risk a very bad situation. Gambino was never the commander in chief. There was little Gambino who could do all the walls closed in, not so much this maniac. All right, not just facts. I mean, of course, like we're seeing it now where, so many people have coped for Trump and let him do whatever he wanted, that now we're in this situation that we're in today. And so it is not clear why Mueller, who did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment, and the Epsteins were corresponding at the time, but the Wall Street Journal reported in 2023 that a spokesperson for Goldman Sachs, where Mueller was then employed, said that she had a professional relationship with Epstein in connection with her role at the law firm Latham Watkins LLP. All right. So that's a story right there, guys. Okay. So look, I think it's important that we take account for what we're looking at here. And we also make sure that we're being, very respectful towards the fact that this story has been built over time on this channel. All right. Like we've been talking about this since the beginning. Right. So let me see here. Maybe I could do something like this. You know what I'm saying? Let me see something real quick. Get up in here real quick, guys. 1 second here. But yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, like I've been saying for a long time, like we've been watching this story, we've been paying attention to just how, Trump's been moving. I could have told y'all that this was the direction that it was going, like we already knew that Trump was going to find a way to distance himself or distract us from keeping our foot on the gas. But now he can't run from this shit because it's 100% cooked, dog. Cooked. Like you are 100% cooked, bro, because there's only going to be more information that comes out. They said 20,000 pages of emails and information. That's a lot of information, guys. It's a lot of content. All right. So they got a lot that they could really sift through and start to put together a story or, some sort of connection process here, because it's not looking good, man. Trump literally has those huge, that's a 20,000 pages is insane. 20,000 pages, that's a lot to worry about, man, just because you just never know what could be on there, how that could go. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's up, man. I don't know what's going on with the YouTube, man, but my connection is just being trashed today, y'all. Sorry about that. I don't know what's up, man. I just think, like I said, I don't know what's the deal, but I know that anytime I talk about Trump or Epstein, some weird be going on. They be suppressing the views on the videos when we talk about Trump and Epstein, and it's very interesting, how all of a sudden, my connection's not working, and then Google comes in, and it's like, it's very interesting. That's all I have to say about that. But we will continue. All right. I just feel like I don't know what's up with my stream, guys. I think I gotta dip out, bro. I gotta refresh this vibe because they're messing with my stream. I don't know what's up, guys, but just want to top on here, talk about this one real quick. We're gonna let that drop in the algorithm and see what it does. But thank you guys for pulling up. Thank you to all the new subscribers. And anyone who's been watching this video, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm Brandon B. Elite Media, man. We out. Peace.